Well, it's without doubt one of the most important pieces of legislation which has been passed in the last number of decades, which supports workers' rights. It's a piece of legislation which will outlaw zero-hour contracts. It will give precarious workers in the retail sector and indeed in the service sector an opportunity to get more secure hours and more secure earnings. They'll be able to go to their employer after a reference period and seek that their contract of employment is renewed to reflect the hours they actually work, and which means that they can actually earn what they actually earn, and the employer can't hold them to ransom on an ongoing basis with the threat that they'll cut their hours. Well, the bill is really the result of direct action by workers. Workers mobilised around this whole issue of inequality, about being kind of wage slaves to their employers. They decided that they would mobilise in Dunnes Stores in the first instance. They took direct action by going on strike. Nearly 5,000 Dunnes Stores workers took to the streets. And after that, they decided that they would mobilise around the political arena. If they couldn't change Dunnes Stores, they were going to change the law around Dunnes Stores. So there was an intensive lobbying campaign by Dunnes Stores workers. They visited the local constituency offices, the local TDs, local senators, which went on for over 2 years, and their resilience was absolutely unbelievable. They were determined to make this work. They were determined to get this legislation in place. They put huge pressure on government. They put huge pressure on all political parties, and with some very good allies. We have good allies in the progressive political parties and independents who stood by these workers in their time of need and made sure that the legislation wasn't some sort of a kind of a hollow piece of legislation, but actually had a bit of meat on the bone and would do what is, what is said on the tin. And that's important. And we believe this kind of legislation will actually deliver for workers and will be, I suppose, a line in the sand to give workers decency. Well, the bill will be enacted, it'll be signed by the President over the next day or two, but it will be enacted on 1st of March 2019. Mandate intends to have an intensive information campaign right around the country, not only for our members, but for non-members and prospective members, to talk them through the bill, talk them through what their entitlements are under that bill, and how to enforce those entitlements with their employers. So we will have a very, very intense educational programme, information programme, which will empower workers themselves to be able to go to their employer and say, listen, I want my rights, I want my entitlements, I want my contracts to reflect what I actually work. And I think that's important. I think workers will see the benefit at the end of that 3 months period. This bill, it's not a very complicated bill. It's a bill that's very understandable, but the legislation will need, and workers will need, some help in order to work their way through it. So I would strongly suggest that they join a trade union, that they join mandate trade union in the retail or bar sector. There's a lot of exploitation in the retail sector, there's a lot of exploitation in the bar sector, there's a lot of zero-hour contracts and precarious type contracts where workers don't know from week to week what hours they have or what their shifts are. And this should all be brought to an end as a result of this bill. And the best way to do that, and the best way to ensure that, is you join a trade union, you join mandate trade union. Well, I have a message for Dunnes Stores workers. Just to congratulate them. Their resilience was, unbelievable. They stood on the street, they stood on the picket lines, they marched to Dunnes Stores head office, they marched to the Dáil, they engaged with the local TDs, they lobbied very, very strongly. They were so determined. They knew what they wanted. They had a goal and they achieved that goal. So, hats off to the Dunnes Stores workers and all other activists in mandate trade unions. They were joined by other activists who got the bigger picture, other activists in Lloyd's Pharmacy, in Tesco, and in the bar trade, who all rallied around and said, listen, something? This is something we can achieve together as a strong trade union, and they did. So congratulations to everyone involved.